from the creator of Resident Evil, Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we're taking out some dinosaurs. Why are we taking out some dinosaurs? It's because today we got a new dinosaur movie, and it's a Jurassic Park movie. Maybe you're excited about it, you're dreading it, I don't know. But I thought it was a good time to break out a dinosaur game. You may wonder, why not the Jurassic Park games? Obviously, but I've only watched the first Jurassic Park. I'm not going to sit here and be a fraud. And anyway, I did hear such incredible things about Dino Crisis. It's been so demanded that Capcom bring this back. And bring it back they did. There's a reason why it's not my PS1 or 2 behind me and it's the 5. It's because they brought it back in PlayStation's new classic catalog. A lot of people were upset there were no trophies, but I went through it anyway because I've been grinding a ton of 100-line Last Defense Academy. I'm like 55, 60 hours in right now. Feel like there's no end in sight, and I wanted a little weekend palate cleanser, and this game was just calling my name. What I didn't know going into this is that this would be a bit of an emotional, nostalgic journey for me, as it always is. And in typical Maddie fashion, I am experiencing things a little out of order here, which I seem to have done throughout my entire gaming career, whether it be like starting Kingdom Hearts 2 first before 1 or playing Silent Hill 3 before the first one. You know how I roll. What I mean by this is that outside of Silent Hill, this is my first Capcom experience with tank controls, not even the OG Resident Evil games. So there was a little bit of grappling with that, understanding how they make games this way. And overall, it was quite the journey that I want to share with you all today in my first complete playthrough of Dino Crisis. So if you're new here and you're into nostalgic or retrospective content, consider subscribing. I was not ready for how cool this game is. And I'm not even like a dinosaur guy, to be very clear. There's a reason why I waited so long to see Jurassic Park. Like, I just don't have that prehistoric fascination. The only prehistoric I care about is right here, this game to my right, prehistoric Turtlesaurus. That stage I care about. That's about as far as my dino love goes, really. And the Triceratops, they're kind of dinosaur coded. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, for me, as not a dinosaur nut, I was not ready for how cool this game was, and it's really how it handled its story. I'll talk about that in greater detail later in the video for those who don't want to get spoiled, because yes, we'll talk about the story in full detail. Right now, I want to just talk about the gameplay. There was a little bit of coming to terms with what this game wanted you to do, and I don't mean it in the tank control way. Fortunately, having Silent Hill under my belt, I adjusted to this pretty quickly. At first, it was a little obtuse as tank controls are, maneuvering the camera, still walking forward because my character's walking to the left, which is technically up, but the way the camera's oriented confuses you a little bit. Man, have game controls come a long way. But it was really coming to terms with how you tackle the dinosaurs. You see, I was playing this like a survival horror game as you would. I was unloading my ammo, hoping I'd find some more around the corner, trying to kill every dinosaur I came across, starting to realize these dinosaurs don't die easy, which does make sense. And they absolutely whoop the crap out of you if they get a hold of you. Like, they'll literally grab you and start ragdolling you around. My God, I was liberally using that rewind feature for a PS5 emulation, and it came in handy in certain stretches of this game. I will not lie to you. A lot of what made this game click for me was tactically using different ammo types. Like, my slag bullets were really useful for tougher dinosaurs, whereas if I had darts that would put these dinosaurs to sleep, oh man, if you were a tough one that would just whoop me, I'm putting you to sleep in the hallway and we're running right by you. But I'm saving it for that moment. Or using the tripwires in the game to kind of activate parts of the facility security, where I could create like a laser fence between me and the dinosaurs, and they would stupidly keep running into it over and over, and I'd safely shoot them. That was the strategy I was not ready for in this game, just tactically maneuvering this facility. The other thing that created suspense and anticipation is I started to run by these dinosaurs, because one thing that at first I was having an issue with the game is I felt like running made way more sense in this game, but the developers at Capcom really accounted for that, because when you run by these dinosaurs, they'll come to haunt you later. You'll think you're entering a nice safe hallway, and I'm always just like nervous and on edge because all of a sudden you hear the crash through the glass and a dinosaur that you left behind in the other room is coming after you. So if you do leave them alive, you're gonna pay the price one way or another. And so I really appreciated the tension they created in the gameplay, because it is survival horror, like limited resources. It's a little scary, a little tense. Every firefight feels like your last. Like, all of that is still here, but there's this added layer of tactics and strategy in the way I navigated the facility and when I actually should fight and I should just live to fight another day. And making those decisions on the fly was tough, but it added a real layer to this game that no other real survival horror game I've played has had before, right? Like, I think about all of my favorites. Silent Hill, that extra layer is really psychological. It's story-based. That's what gives it the edge. Resident Evil is just classic survival horror. You got games like Dead Space, which I think really load you up more than others, but you have to focus on how you're killing your enemy, like where you're shooting them, what parts of the necromorph you're taking out. This game's edge was using your environment, making really smart use of your resources, but more particular than that, not just bullets, but again, like darts. As you probably would expect with tank controls, I did have a little bit of issue with Dino Crisis and like just tapping R1 to auto lock onto like dinosaurs flying in the sky and just auto shooting them even though they're way off screen, and just assuming I hit them because I'd hear them kind of screeching in the distance when I shot my gun. Things like that, a little on it, but overall it's, you know, at a certain point I'm being harsh for a game for existing in its time period where games were made in this way, and I got around it pretty easily. I also love the use of plugs. These are like secret items you'll find throughout the facility. Maybe you move a shelving unit and behind it is a plug, or an enemy drops a plug, or it's on a dead body, whatever it may be. These plugs are used on these little stashes that are all throughout the facility, and depending on what color they use, like red is ammo or green is healing resources, these limited plugs can be used in emergency situations to get access to like, ooh, a lot of healing supplies. Like, I'm really low on healing supplies. For me, I spent most of the opening part of the game low on healing supplies. So when I saw a green box, I went hard, filled myself up, went into the mixing menu, started putting my anesthetics together, started making really beefed up healing supplies, and ended up running through a lot of it because then I started to run low on ammo. This game, I struggled a bit with managing my resources. Like, I'd either be totally full on healing supplies or I'd be totally full on ammunition. And by the end of the game, I finally found a happy in between, but I really struggled to decide when I wanted to use things. And I wish there was like a drop feature or a scrap feature, throw away feature. This is something I was a little bit upset about because there were times I wanted to actually pick something up, but I couldn't because my inventory was full. And it's like, oh, that's a med pack though. I don't need all these hemostats. Like, I could drop one of these, and the game just wouldn't let you unless you were at like a stash where you could then swap the item in with that. And I guess I could have ran around and done that, but it's a little bit inconvenient. And it reminds me actually of a game that came out a few years ago, Signalis, a fantastic survival horror game, and they did fix this in a patch, but the inventory management was a little bit annoying in that game as well. So I felt very familiar with that pain, and it was not wonderful to have it back. I also loved how you had to time shooting the dinosaurs in this game. This is another thing I struggled to come around the corner on, because at first I'm playing it like any survival horror or a shooter game, and I'm just unloading on them, and then they keep knocking me over, and I'm thinking, what am I, like, how am I supposed to fight back? And that's when I started running away. And then one time the dinosaur was coming at me, and I just had this very timely shot on a raptor, and he was midair, and I shot him and knocked him down. And then it clicked into place. I went, oh, okay, let me wait till he goes to attack me again. And then I realized that's how I conserve my resources, but also get this thing the hell away from me. So again, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of tactics there. Really appreciated that. Let's talk a bit about the story, but to kind of tee that up, what I actually want to talk about is the emotion this game made me experience. And before I go further, for those who are going to like tab off the video or whatever, it's not because, oh my God, this story is so emotional, it's so good. I think it's a good story, I should say that, but it's not one that's designed to make you feel strongly in any way. It's more so for me, as I talked about in our recent birthday haul video, just turning 30, I've been in a deeply reflective state. Playing this game at this time of my life was actually kind of special, because between the visuals, that PS1 art style, the music, the kind of compressed audio, the short length of the game, how simple yet effective it was, and the energy it carried, it made it an experience that I've only had a few times, where with certain movies I watched for Retro Rewind that came out during the 80s or the 90s, or certain games I play nowadays, I just feel my brain tries extremely hard to transport itself back to that point in time, and just, I think very hard about the zeitgeist of that moment. What was it like walking out of the theaters when Die Hard came out. Like, when are we going to see that again? What was it like when Dino Crisis came out and like playing it on a warm summer night like I was on the CRT? What was that like? And no single image punched this home further than when I beat the game and I see the evaluation of my performance in the playthrough and it says, excellent, you got mad skills, which made me laugh out loud. But also I went, man, that's so 90s. And as a 90s kid, that just made me feel a type of way. The game and the time period of which I'm playing it made me feel a type of way. But I've just noticed since I've gotten older, playing games from this era really has a strong emotional power over me. And especially in the environment I played in, like, this is the room I game in, y'all. So like the posters behind me, my whole collection here, it was designed when I did this set when we first moved in here. I call it a set, but it's really my office. But when we set it up this way, I wanted to kind of invoke some of my bedroom when I was growing up. And it just brought me back to this sort of time, this place, this period, this state of mind. And playing this game, I was in a bit of a trance. It was just a quick little weekend burst, beat it in like 2 sessions, but it was awesome, man. So yeah, just wanted to kind of tee it up with that. So if I come in strong on the story, that's why. But basically what's happening here is you're a squadron of agents that have been deployed by the government to this facility that's been investigating something called the Third Energy. Now, behind the Third Energy is Dr. Kirk, who you'll be seeking out throughout the entire game. He apparently died 3 years ago, but then somehow he's running this facility over here. You're dropped in to investigate it in an epic opening FMV. And so once you gain control, immediately you find people cut up, and the game's gore really establishes itself immediately. I love that about this game, just very unapologetic about how M-rated it was for its time. It also establishes, again, that 90s energy. I love Regina as a protagonist. She is so capable, so badass, and so funny. Like the first dead body she sees, she goes, that's messed up. I just snorted at that. I thought it was great. Again, very 90s, very fold your arms, cool and edgy. Like, oh, a dinosaur cut that dude up. That sucks. You know, like, I just love that stuff. Again, growing up during that time, I really sound old in this video, but it's awesome. So I just really enjoyed her energy throughout. From there, you, Gail, and Rick all split up and take on your own separate tasks. I loved how you were in this abandoned facility and everyone was in different points of the facility, because sometimes you'd bump into each other, and it was this moment of respite of, okay, I'm probably going to be safe here, and there's not going to be a dinosaur around the corner. But also adding to that is, as you're exploring this facility, hearing dinosaurs scratching, walking around, you know they're right nearby, and that builds anxiety too. So when you see a character from the story, even if it's like a brief, you know, Gale in like a research room just saying, Dr. Kirk's around here somewhere, and then just leaves, and that's it, it still is awesome. Now, again, your mission is to find Dr. Kirk, and there are different methods of which you can take to find Dr. Kirk. This was one of the real pleasant surprises about Dino Crisis was, oh, there's like choices throughout the story. And it's really the ending that gives you the more diverse choice and consequence, if you will. But when it comes to the actual methods, they do change up the missions, for example. Like at one point, you're trying to escape to like the main entrance of the facility to get to the helipad, and there were 2 ways you could go about it. Gale's method, which was a little more run and gun, beat out all of the different dinosaurs or shoot them, or Rick's method, which was a little more long-term, a little bit more puzzle-oriented, but a lot safer if you were lower on resources, but you had to use your brain more. So it was really like a brains versus brawns choice each time. And most times I would go with Gale's choice because it kind of fit what I was doing as a character, but also kind of fit what I felt I was equipped to do and what I was enjoying most about the game, which was exploring and the tension. I'll be honest, a lot of these puzzles, your boy had to hit up GameFAQs. I bent the knee to GameFAQs. Some of these, like the way the crane was controlled and the combinations you had to punch in, that one was a little tough for me. Whereas the battery puzzles, really easy. This game loves its red, green, blue puzzles. Like those are nice and easy. Can totally handle those. And I feel like I can handle most puzzles, but when they're delivered to me in such an obtuse way, yeah, the crane one, I just bent the knee on. I did like the DDK code system, kind of finding the input and the key and then translating it. As they started to inject numbers in, it became a little tough, but started to wrap my head around it a bit more. And I always found it cheeky what they chose as the password, you know, to get into the lab. The password was laboratory. Love that. So yeah, the choice and consequence was great, but eventually the story turns into, okay, there's dinosaurs here, we have to reach out to command. You activate the antenna, you reach out to command, they bring in a nice helicopter for you to escape on, and we know how this is gonna go, right? T-Rex shows up, knocks out the helicopter, you're stuck here, so you have to find an alternate route to escape. Turns out there's a port, a boat that you can take out. But to reach that boat, there's like a portal, a warping portal that's in the way. And it's here you start to learn more about third energy, which turns out it's like space-time energy. It's known as the new cleanest source of energy on the planet. But the trade-off is that you're kind of swapping space-time to get it. And so what's happening is you're grabbing the clean energy from back then, and it's super powerful and super cool. But you're also grabbing like basically the dinosaurs and swapping spaces with them is how I understood it. And I thought this was really unique, to be frank with you, because I immediately put down the controller and went out and told my wife, I said, I don't think I've ever seen a story do this. Like, I was totally expecting it to feel like a Jurassic Park fan game. And they do make a Jurassic Park reference in the game. They also make like a Back to the Future reference at the end. But I just thought it was really unique what they were doing with the story and how they were kind of focusing on energy resources, which very Final Fantasy VII coded, but also kind of just this idea of like how using time and space and warping these dinosaurs forward, like this is how they got here. So now that you know this, the only way through this portal is to basically have the third energy overload itself. And this leads you to your final choice in the game, which there are actually 4 different endings, but there's 2 methods to go about each of the endings. So there's Gale's method and there's Rick's method. This one I had to think the hardest about, because now I know this definitely feels like endgame territory. It's do or die. Gale is hurt because he basically saved Dr. Kirk as part of the mission. You help Gale out. So it's like, do we go after Dr. Kirk, who managed to escape with the tracker on him? Do we just abandon the mission and make sure we all get out alive? I will admit, I did Rick's ending first. So I said, you know what? Let's just get out of here. There's no way Dr. Kirk's gonna live. We're just gonna go, try to get out of here, and live to fight another day. And so you fight the T-Rex at the end, you get on the boat, you narrowly escape, the island blows up, and that's it. They don't know what happened to Cooper, but we know Cooper got eaten up at the beginning of the game with the FMV. But otherwise, it was a mission success, but it definitely felt unfulfilling. So I went back and looked at some of the other endings, and I definitely feel like, in my opinion, Rick's ending is the worst because you don't get key answers. For example, going with Gale, you get the answer on what you're actually out there for. There is a disc that Dr. Kirk gives to Gale, and it turns out your mission was actually on the behalf of the government to recover this information because all they care about is utilizing third energy. This was not like a rescue mission like you thought, which throughout the game you kind of suspect, like the way Gale and Kirk are coming together so often, and I think Gale loads his gun like 80 times in this game and just points it at Kirk to intimidate him, to get him to do what he wants. You have to imagine there's some relation there. I feel it was very heavily inferred, but when I heard this, I went, whoa, that's actually really cool. You know, this kind of inside plot, and the reason that Gale knows about it but you as Regina and Rick don't know about it is because simply you're kind of goody two-shoes. It was to protect you a little bit. These endings also include you like shooting the dinosaur from the back of the boat as you're speeding out of there, and this dinosaur can swim, by the way. He can swim really fast. I thought that was really epic. It also means you actually escape with Kirk, and there's an option where Gale doesn't die while explaining the final mission and you all get out alive. That to me felt like the best ending because you kind of complete the mission, Gale barely survives, you get the truth about the mission itself, and it kind of sets you up like, oh, what's going to happen next? But I love that there were so many endings and then secrets you can unlock once you finish the game. Overall, like, you're not really fully there for the story, but I thought it was way better and more original than I expected. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised because I feel like survival horror just brings out the best in storytelling. I loved going around the environment, reading all the little memos and notes from the scientists working here. A lot of them did get a bit repetitive, like, oh, Dr. Kirk is up to something. He's lost his mind. And that was really it. But overall, I really enjoyed my first dive into Dino Crisis, and I can't wait to check out the second and the third one and see what's going on there. I've heard, just, again, I have not watched anything on it because I figure at this point, experience it all blind, but I've heard that they get more progressively action-oriented, and I'm open-minded to that because I don't know if like the survival horror is what made me fully fall head over heels with this game until I experience it without that. So we'll see. but I wouldn't hate, you know, killing a couple extra dinosaurs. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Dino Crisis down below. I absolutely adored it and was in a dino mood this weekend, so wanted to check it out. So you fire away down below, and with that, I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.